Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Marriott, and with the 10 Minute Trainer Network, and we are so excited to have Amanda Fontaine with us today on the 10 Minute Trainer Network to talk about time management. Amanda, are you out there? There she is. Maybe there we go. Hey, Amanda.
Hi.
Good to have you back on 10 Minute Trainer Network live and in person. And you're talking time management today, which obviously I wish everybody could see the before the scenes on what we talk about, just random stuff. But all right, I have to tell you, or I have to tell the audience out there, Amanda is quite possibly the busiest, most desired person out there that I know, and she has so many organizations that you work with, from a nonprofit to obviously the Mississippi Association of Broadcasters. You do live training. You work with so many different organizations. You have to be good at time management to understand how to just manage your schedule. So I feel like there's no one better prepared to lead today's topic than you. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, well, hey, here's what I want to do. I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to let you lead us on how do we make the most of our days? How do we make the most of our weeks? I know I'm going to be taking notes like crazy because this is a topic that sometimes I struggle with. I think we all do. For those of you who are not familiar with Amanda, she is not only the president of the Mississippi Association of Broadcasters, she has a company called She Gets Success. And really, it's designed to help both individuals and teams turn your goals in reality. So, Amanda, we'll wrap it up a little bit later with some more information. But you know what? This is my time to. I'm going to bow out. I'm going to be here, but I turn it over to you.
All right, sounds great. I'm super excited about this. Time management is literally one of my favorite topics. So let's get started. I'm going to talk a little fast because we have lots to cover in the next few minutes. But when we're thinking time management, when I think time management, what I think is I want to get more done in less time, and I want to work smarter, not harder. So we're going to talk about how do we reach that goal today? What does that look like? So I'm going to tell you what my time management system is. And my time management system may not be what works best for you. We're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. But if I was doing a workshop for you and had my PowerPoint up, what would come up right now is a bottle of wine and a notebook. And I know you're thinking, what in the world? So I think that the key to time management always is planning. And on Sunday evenings, I sit down, everyone, all of my friends know this. I sit down at 6 o'clock with a glass of wine and I plan my entire week. I do that in a notebook. So I'm sure that most of you have calendars and some of you have them on your phone. Some of you have the really cute planners that are color coded, and I love those. But I use just a plain notebook, and this is my system. I literally write down everything that I have for the entire week. And I use a notebook because as I'm getting older, I don't remember things as well. I don't know if any of you have that issue too. But I put down if I'm going to, I just got back from Rotary. If I'm going to Rotary and I'm going to see my board treasurer there and I need to give him something, then I actually have a little note in my notebook next to Rotary to remind me that I need to take that and give that to Peter. So I have all kinds of notes in my notebook. And at the beginning, the very first thing of the day, this is how I handle my to do list. I am certain that all of you probably have a very lengthy to do list, and I do too. And what is the best thing about a to do list? In my opinion, it's marking it off. I don't know how many of you do this, but I will actually write down something I did to mark it off because the dopamine rush is really a thing. Well, if you have a very long to do list, and this is what I used to do, then at the end of the day, you didn't have a whole lot of things marked off. So it's not very motivational, right? So now what I do is I do 3 priority items every day. And those are the things that are at the top of my page every solitary day. And so if you do 3 items every day, by Friday, you've taken 15 things off your list. So what I do is I come into the office in the mornings, I turn my phone over so I don't have any distractions, and I do my priority items on my list, get them marked off. It feels so good. Now, I'm a morning person. So if you have more energy at this time of the afternoon, then that is when you need to schedule time to do your priority items, not first thing in the morning, because you want it to be when you're most productive. And so that kind of differs for some people. And what I'm talking about doing is really time blocking. And I have done so much research on that. Bill Gates, all of these people time block. And it's so intriguing to me. I utilize time blocking for my priority items. And then if I'm working on a big project and I need to have, an hour to do a sales report or something, I actually block that time off in my calendar to make sure that that gets done. But then one other thing that I do is I block the end of the day. So many, many years ago, I was the director of human resources, marketing, and education for a hospital. And if any of you are healthcare related and know anything about that, I was on about every committee in the hospital. So I would come back and my desk would just be stacked. So one day I was meeting with the CEO of the hospital and I asked her, I was noticing how clean her desk was. And I was like, okay, how is it that you are over every department in this hospital and your desk looks like that? And I'm only over three and my desk is a hot mess. And I will never forget it, y'all. She looked at me and she said, do you ever see me in meetings at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? And I had really never thought about that. But that answer was no. We never had meetings at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So she would block off 4 to 5 every day. And that is when she would wrap up everything for today and plan for tomorrow. And it is such a game changer. And we're going to talk about emails in a couple of minutes and even kind of utilizing that as the wrap up of your day. And then when you get ready for work the next day, you feel so organized because you're ready for the day. But let's talk about one other thing. Let's talk about your daily routine. So, how many of you have ever said, I don't have time to exercise, or I don't have time to do XYZ, whatever that may be? So, Brian's like me. So, I had that problem. I was always like, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to exercise. It would never happen for me in the evenings because I was just too busy. So I was like, okay, in order to make this work, I have to change my daily routine. So I get up at 4:30 every morning and I do my devotional. I then work out and wash a load of clothes all before I ever start getting ready for work. And I thought it was going to be difficult. I really did, but it wasn't. I'm so used to getting up. Now I just wake up automatically. But it's a great way to start my day, and I'm energized every day. I know you're kind of wondering, like, what about the washing the clothes thing? But this is for like any large project that you're working on. I personally like to wash like a few clothes every morning because if I just, it takes 5 minutes to put them in the dryer, fold them up, and put them up if you have 10 items of clothes. So I don't want to wait till Saturday or Sunday and have to spend my whole day washing clothes. That does not work for me. And it's the same thing as with any other like large project. I actually kind of break that down into every day in my priority items. I put that in a priority item every day. And then by the end of the week, that really large project's done. Because if I don't, I have a tendency to procrastinate because I hate to sit down for a couple of hours to work on things. So that's one thing. Now we're going to move on. We were talking about emails to managing your screen time. I want you to think, how many times a day do you check your emails? I bet it's a lot. The average person checks 11 times every hour. So I want you to think about that. Is that productive? I think you would agree with me that the answer to that is definitely no. Because what happens when you're checking your emails? You're going down all those rabbit holes, right? And you can be there. I can spend a whole entire hour just you know on a few emails, and I can spend a whole morning if I can sit here and reply to everything, and my morning is gone. So this is what I recommend, and I have really researched this too, y'all. So I recommend that you check your emails 3 times a day. So again, when I get here first thing in the morning, it's not, I don't check my emails. I do my 3 priority items, remember? Then I check my emails. And then I'll check my emails again either right before or right after lunch, depending on kind of what my schedule looks like that day. And then again at the end of the day. And the key thing to that is that I have a cute little pink, remember these? Like from a really long time ago, but this is 30 minutes. And that's how I know it's like, okay, it's time for me to stop. So I've also done this workshop for sales trainings, sales teams, and they will look at me and they're like, Amanda, we cannot do this. It's just not possible. And I'm like, why? And they said, because our clients expect us to always be, readily available for them. And I was like, well, first of all, you need to kind of train those clients a little bit. But so this is what I recommend if that's the case. If you're like, I have to check my emails all the time. And I get that some of us are in roles that we really do. Then I recommend checking them at 5 minutes at the end of every hour. So 9:55 to 10, 10:55 to 11, 11:55 to 12. And what is the key thing that I'm saying here is 5 minutes. So you don't want to, if you run 20 minutes, you're defeating the whole entire purpose. So you can set the timer on your phone. I don't recommend, if I pick up my phone, if I pick it up right now, then I'm looking at all of these text messages that I've gotten and, since we've been on, and I'm going to get easily distracted and start doing that. But I will tell you that this truly, truly, truly helps. And as I have done this training for people, even the sales teams, I had a couple of sales teams that I trained, and I saw them a couple of weeks, not a couple of weeks, a couple of months later, and they were so energized because they promised me they were going to keep to it, and they did, and it really changed their productivity. So we're going to talk some more about emails. I kind of have a system like the 3 Ds. So the first D is do. And of course, a lot of your emails are that you have to do them. If anything takes 3 to 5 minutes, then you should go in and do it. Don't write it on a list to do it later. Do it, get it done. Delete. I know that sounds, you're like, okay, yeah, you just delete the emails. But the key thing here is not just deleting, it's also unsubscribing, because unsubscribing literally takes you 5 seconds and you won't continue having to delete those every solitary day. My husband was looking at his phone and he was like, oh my gosh, all of these are just junk emails. I was like, have you unsubscribed? He was like, no. I was cool. You're going to continue getting those same junk emails every day until you unsubscribe. But it really cleans out your inbox. And the other thing on my inbox, the only emails that are in my inbox are ones that I still have something to work on. Everything else is in a file folder. I file everything, and it just really helps with productivity. And then the last one is delegate. And I know for some of us, delegating is difficult because you're like, it's easier sometimes to just do it ourselves. But I'm going to give you an example dealing with emails. We just had our awards event last weekend. So if I had a GM that emailed me and said, hey, Amanda, I'm going to have another table at the awards event. Then, used to, what I would have done is I would have replied back and said, "Oh, great. We're so excited that you're bringing extra people. Please let Carolyn know who's going to be at your table, and then I'll send you or let me know that. I'll send you an invoice, and we're so excited and we look forward to seeing you there." Compared to this is what I do now. I'm very thoughtful about how I reply to things because it really will save you time. So today's scenario, if I got the same thing, I would reply to that GM. I would copy Carolyn in my office that handles events, and I would copy Jessica that handles invoices. And I would reply back and say, "Hey, so excited that you're bringing an extra table. I'm copying Carolyn on this email. Please let her know who's going to be sitting at your table. And I'm copying Jessica on this email so that she knows to change your invoice to add an extra table, and you'll be receiving that from her. So excited. Can't wait to see you at the event." So, do you see what the difference is? Because from the first scenario, what's going to happen is he's going to send something back to me that doesn't come to me. And then Carolyn's going to be like, "Did you ever get the names from him?" And I look back and like, "No, I didn't." So with this, he knows to send names to Carolyn. He knows that he's getting an invoice from Jessica, not me. So if he doesn't get an invoice, he's not going to be like, "Amanda, where's my invoice?" So it really cuts out so many steps if you're just really thoughtful about how you reply to your emails. So a little while ago, I said that I have a tendency to procrastinate. So let's talk about distractions because procrastinating is actually a distraction. We have the obvious ones, social media. Now I kind of look at the top three and stop because you can scroll for hours. But I do want to talk a little bit about multitasking because that's a big one. Have you ever heard people say, "Oh my gosh, I am so great at multitasking"? Well, let's talk about that. It can actually reduce your productivity by up to 40%, as switching between tasks often leads to a loss of focus. That's per the American Psychological Association. People who multitask frequently are more prone to make errors. So, error rates increase by about 50% when tasks are performed simultaneously. And think about this. Have you ever been on the phone? You're having a conversation, you're replying to an email, and you get the email back that from the person that you sent it to, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, like that is totally not what I meant to say." But it was because you were so distracted because your brain is not made to focus on two things at one time. So actually, it's more beneficial for you to finish that phone call, focus on that, hang up, and then reply to the email. And that actually saves you time. Also, constantly switching between tasks really drains your mental energy, and it increases errors and it reduces overall productivity. And at some other point, we'll talk about task and the mental issues and all of that good stuff because that's like a whole nother session that's really interesting. But also, let's talk about meetings. That's also can be a waste of time. Have you ever had a meeting and you're like, "We just had a meeting to have a meeting, like we didn't even get anything resolved out of this"? I will no longer do that. If Brian asked me to meet with him and it is not productive, then the next time he asks me to meet with him, I'm going to politely look at my calendar and go, "Oh, I'm like really sorry. I'm totally booked. Can you just email me what you need, and we can figure it out this way." But talking about meetings, they also can be very productive. And I will tell you that, you know how Oprah has her favorite things? This is my favorite thing. And if you can see it, you can really tell it is because it's kind of worn now. But this is a meeting notebook. You can order a meeting notebook off of Amazon. But the thing that's different about it is if you have to go through a notebook and go page by page to find the notes, then that takes me a while. So the difference is that you actually have page numbers and then you write right here what's on every page. So, for example, if I'm planning my conference that's coming up, then I can look in here and see, okay, everything that I talked to about everyone I talked to about a conference, that's on page 6, 20, 29, and that's where I go. Or if I am a salesperson and I want to check on a particular client, then I know that these are the notes for my meetings with that client. It's on page 7, 16, and 22. But I actually use this for everything. I use it for every committee meeting, every Zoom meeting, every board meeting. Everything's in here, and you basically can write the notes. And then at the bottom of it are your to do items. So, highly recommend one of these. Then, also, I sent one to Darren after my leadership academy. We had a meeting, and I was like, okay, Darren, on Tuesday, you're going to cover this, on Wednesday, this, and on Thursday, this. And a couple of weeks later, Darren was like, hey, what am I covering at your leadership academy? I was like, okay, we talked about this. Tuesday, this, Wednesday, this, Thursday, this. So he asked me a third time. I was like, Darren, are you taking notes? And he was like, yeah, I use all of these legal pads and I don't know which one it's in. So after my leadership academy, I did send him home with a meeting notebook. I'm not quite sure that he's actually using it, but I try. But it really will, it keeps everything concise and in one place for you, which is awesome. Then I'm going to talk about super quickly about one word that is 2 letters that can have a huge impact. And that word is no. And I am terrible at saying no. But I'm learning. I'm trying so hard. But remember that saying yes to one thing literally means saying no to another. So be intentional about your commitments. Say yes to what aligns with your goals and values, and confidently say no to what doesn't. And this was another thing that actually Darren told me this when I was talking about starting my consulting business. I will never forget. He looked at me and he was like, Amanda Fontaine, you can do anything that you put your mind to, but you can't do everything. And you know what? He was right. I mean, we try to do everything, right? And we think we can do everything. But if we're trying so hard to do, I mean, are we going to do everything well? No, we're really not. And that's why the word no is so important. So I'm going to wrap up with this story that you've probably heard before, but I do love it. And I think it's so relevant to what we're talking about. So a professor walked into his classroom and he placed an empty jar on the table. And he had a box of large rocks that he poured into the jar. So he looked at his students and he said, is this jar full? And they were like, I guess so. It looks full of rocks. So then he took out pebbles and he poured pebbles in the jar. So what happened then? The pebbles fell between the big rocks. So then he takes out sand. He pours the sand in the jar. The sand falls between the pebbles and the large rocks. And then finally, he took out water and he poured water in the jar. And so he looks at his students and he says, this jar represents your life. The large rocks are the important things, your family, your health, your passions, your major goals. The pebbles are the other things that matter, like your job, your friendships, your hobbies. The sand represents all the little, often trivial things. So think about your email inbox, your minor task. And the water, that's the small stuff, the distractions and busy work that can fill up your day if you let them. So the lesson is this: if you put the sand and water in first, there's no room for the important things. But if you focus on the big rocks first, you'll always have room for the smaller things. So the key to time management is knowing what your big rocks are and prioritizing them, ensuring they don't get crowded out by the less important stuff. So I think this story really helps to show the importance of prioritizing time for the things that matter most while not letting the less important things take up all of our energy. So as we end today, I want to encourage you to take control of your time, whether you implement time blocking or create routines or get better at saying no, or just start with small steps. And that will help you focus on what truly matters. And remember, you are the CEO of your time. So I left a few minutes for questions, Brian.
All right, I will. We'll keep an eye on for questions here that come through on. Oh, no, I don't know if we have it open on the chat, but you know what? If you have questions, I'm just realizing the chat is not active on today's session, but I am going to open it up. If anybody wants to send us an email, they can do that. Although we're on a little bit of a delay with live, but I mean, a couple of things. First of all, awesome. I mean, once again, I'm jotting notes. One, I think we should quiz Derek. I think we should see if he actually still has the notebook, or did he bury it in one of his legal pads and we'll never find it again. I think that's one that we'll probably cover on part two. But
I think Brian, though, on our last meeting, he held up his
yeah,
note,
yeah.
but I would question whether or not there were any
Yeah,
notes.
yeah. If the corners aren't folded, we know it's not real. So, I mean,
Yes,
I think the biggest challenge for me, okay, couple things. One, 6 o'clock, that makes sense. Trying to get our ducks in a row a little bit. It's kind of the last thing I do every day. I loved the individual who, hey, you never see me at 4 p.m. I feel like that's something that I pride myself on kind of doing a little bit on that. But my goodness, I will so struggle with the email thing. 3 times a day is tough. Does it, how long does it take people to really get in the habit of that? Because I feel like I just wait for the ding. I mean, I don't wait for the ding, right? But there are it's hard not to look, because especially in the sales side of things, right? We just want to respond. So I mean, a timer's good. I get really impatient. I'd be flicking it over there, or or be slowing it down or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, how long does it take, usually the sales teams that you were talking about to really get into that rhythm?
they said a month.
A month.
Hmm. And they really did. I mean, I've talked to two after I did their workshops, and they were talking about how much more productive they are.
Yeah.
Even kind of thinking about and the productivity, even your like three priority items, thinking about sales. I just did
Yeah.
a panel this week for on talking about networking. But if you're a salesperson, if you are trying to network with people, like that can actually be in your three priority items of the day. That, I want to reach out to this person, I want to do that. And if you're buried in emails all day, you're not going to get any of the rest of that done.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, and I do a little differently, obviously, on my side, but this has been really helpful on how to better organize it. But yeah, I mean, try to prioritize, and I start. Everybody's got their process on how to do that. But I think also similar to you, it's hard to say no sometimes, right? Because we want to help. A lot of us just want to help, whether that be our clients or whether that be in a sales role or just general. We naturally want to do whatever we can. So that's going to be yeah, I feel like that'll be a challenge one. So Jen, I know you're probably keeping an eye on email. So
Yeah,
since I'm here talking with Amanda.
I
So
did get some come through, so
okay,
I
cool,
want to ask that. But
cool.
one thing I do want to give Amanda props on is I do have my meetings notebook and I have my other notebooks and I have been implementing that. So that's really been helping me out, Amanda. And I know that's on one of your sessions on 10-Minute Trainer Network. I will send everybody who registered so they can watch that. But I just wanted to give you a shout out there because it is something that has really helped me. One of the questions I had is handling interruptions. From coworkers while you're trying to focus on time. So what if you have like a Teams or they're calling you, or and you want to be that team player, that respectful person who is jumping in and asking those questions, or being able to be available to them, but also having respectful boundaries. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
I know that is such a hard one. We just discussed this at the Tri-State Radio Show for quite some time. But thinking back to my days that I was at the hospital, I mean, if you're marketing, education, and human resources, like there are a lot of people that need you all the time.
Yeah.
And and that part of me, and also y'all know I do True Colors, and I have that blue part of me that wants to make people happy, and it hurts my heart to be like, I have to shut my door. But we were discussing this a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, you have to shut your door
Yeah.
because you have to have your time to get your job done. And if you don't, then what's going to happen to work life balance? You're going to go home and you're going to be on your laptop all night long because you chit chatted with everyone. And so, and it is that hard balance there because, but they knew, like, if I shut my door, they knew. They were like, okay, she's in working mode and she has to get this done.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I do too, like, on my Zooms and everything, I'm very, okay, we have X amount of time. And then, and I've noticed my friends started doing this too. It's kind of, they do it to me. I'm like, hey, I taught you that. But I actually set, even like, I love talking to my coworkers, and Carolyn will be in here and I'll set the alarm on the phone and she'll set her alarm. And it's like, okay, that means we're done. We've covered this, we're done. And we're, each moving on to what we need to be doing.
I love that. One thing that Speed talks a lot about on our sales onboarding program is we have got to set appointments to set appointments. So on a sales side is you've got to lay that into your calendar and you've got to hold yourself accountable to that because again, it is your calendar needs to be everything, right? So if it's 30 minutes, stick to 30 minutes, right? Jen, I know the two of us, we get together on meetings and sometimes our 30 minutes blows into, 45 minutes or 60 minutes, right? It just, we've got to be accountable to our team. And so if it's time for you, hold yourself accountable. It's actually really interesting. I am trying to do a better job on LinkedIn. Thanks to Jen. But I came across a picture the other day. And shout out to the station who did this because I know it was a broadcast station. There was a gentleman who, or an individual, I'm not exactly sure. So there's an individual who wrote down on a whiteboard in conference room prospecting, right? And they put it on their desk. And it's like, that's stinking awesome, right? Hey, I'm here, but please, quiet. I'm in there. I'm prospecting, or I think it said I'm out or I'm at cold calling, and it's like one that makes everybody really happy, right? Managers are gonna be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But two, just tell people, hey, I'm going away. I'm don't bother me. This is time for me and business, not personal. And I think that's really crucial that we hold ourselves accountable to do whatever we need to do. And we will feel more accomplished when that clock hits 5.
And I agree. I think that especially with it being virtual for some teams, especially us, Brian, having
Yeah,
that be even like something that you're on a chat telling them because they may not visibly be able to see
yeah,
that sign, but just communicating through your team that I'm focusing on these tasks for myself.
yeah.
Um, then they're going to respect that. But if they don't know, they will just start dinging you and texting you and doing all the things.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
Well,
think
I know.
it's
Oh,
really,
go
really
ahead,
important.
please.
So when I do my calendar, I don't schedule extra time in. I really don't. So if by the time we finish here, if I have something at 3, then if someone calls me in between, then I can chit chat until 3. And I try to say politely up front,
Yeah,
I just want to let you know, like, I have a 3 o'clock meeting, so I'm going to
yeah,
have to wrap up like a couple of minutes before then.
And
And
yeah.
that's a good point, Amanda. There was a question that came through on that side is like, how do you handle things if it doesn't get finished in those blocks? Like if it's a task that you're working on, like do you schedule it for the next day, extra time, or how do you handle that side of things?
Well, it depends on what it is, but if that's when I was talking about too, when I wrap my day up from 4 to 5, so it may be that some of those emails need to go into that 4 to 5 block. Because when I'm doing my emails, I'm replying to things I can reply to real quick. I'm filing anything or deleting anything, but then the ones that take longer are the ones that I come back to at
Okay.
4 o'clock. And then depending on what it is, if it's something that if you're doing a sales proposal for someone or something, that's going to take some time, so it may be then that becomes one of my priority items for the next day. And so
I
it's the
agree.
first thing I'm going to do the next morning.
I think a lot of us as in the sales role too, we want to turn a proposal around as fast as possible, right? We understand, and that's really important because time is everything, right? When somebody is right, when there's an opportunity, we got to run and we got to run fast. But I think we also need to make sure that we owe it to ourselves to give the things the right attention, right? That it's okay to, if there's a part two, it's okay to say, you know what? Realistically, it's going to be next Tuesday Uh, Based upon my schedule, I've got XYZ laid out. It'll be next Tuesday before I can really dig into this, but I want to give it my full attention. I think people respect that, right? That it's like, hey, wow, they're busy. I'm busy. They're going to put their best foot forward in getting back in contact with me. And I think it's okay to give those extra days in there, because too often, then all of a sudden we overload ourselves, we panic, and we're working late nights because we're just trying to do everything we possibly can to be everything to everybody. So that's really good feedback.
And
So
again, it's not our best work.
exactly. So all right, I know we're at time. Jen, was there another question that you wanted to ask?
No, I'll just say we probably should wrap it up. One thing I did
Yep.
want to plug is, Amanda does have her What's Filling Your Jar series that has just been put out on the network, which is a great, series about like, leadership burnout, but also kind of has time management elements into it as well. And I just would love for everybody to just take a look at some of the other stuff that Amanda's doing if you haven't had a chance to do so.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Amanda, we so appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, please. We're getting a lot of folks that are taking your colors series and your time management content. So again, so beyond thankful and blessed to have you a part of the 10-minute trainer network. And hey, do you have time for a conversation, Amanda? No.
Feel free.
I love it. So hey,
I'm
thank
good.
you all so much out there for joining us. Hey, we got another live event coming up in May. Actually, we've got a couple of them, but next month I get to do that one. So Amanda, I could use some of these tips to help prepare for a discussion next month as well. But very much appreciate you. Very much appreciate the opportunity to hear from you. Please feel free to reach out to Jen if you have any questions, and she can obviously pass those directly to Amanda. So with that being said, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.